with a set of skills and document that, and we need the time and space to do that and have faculty that manage that process. The hybrid courses, we have them do the electronic portion, which we would typically do in a lecture format. But with the electronic format, the key is to making sure that there's accountability and design into the coursework, so when they show up for lab, that they've done the work. You can just imagine students will tend to show up without have done the reading. I know none of you ever have that happen to you. But we have to be very deliberate in our design and how we manage students and how we follow up with them to not allow that, and to have accountability in that process for the student to make sure that they've done the pre-work before they get to lab, so we can be as productive as possible and they can learn as much as possible.
Hello, I'm Lonnie Lewellen from the southern part of the state of Indiana. We had a group of 4 in our challenges. We had one from the northern part of the state, Dave Wagner, Glenn Robertson from central office and 2/3 up the state, and Steve Kaufman from the bottom third of the state, and then I'm from the south. I figured the only reason I got this job is because I have the right accent. And then I remembered Glenn's further south, and he's a Kentuckian, so maybe he should be up here. The equipment and quality delivery process is something that impacts all of us, and certainly issues that are challenging for all of us. And our primary challenge was to put processes and procedures in place to continuously improve the division. It's not that we didn't have processes in place, but continuous improvement is always a challenge for all of our schools, and certainly a challenge for us in the state of Indiana. And to increase efficiency, reducing costs, and improving sustainability. Our initiatives focus around these bullet points that you see on the screen now. Our focus was on primary needs, not primary wishes. But we had to establish what primary needs were, and we had to map those program needs along with the programmatic areas. We'll talk about that here later. The second thing we were challenged with was to order and secure equipment centrally to increase efficiency. We are a statewide college, and therefore our equipment purchases sometimes were purchased regionally, and we came to the conclusion that we had more leverage as a state than we had as a region. And so therefore, as 14 regions, we have a lot more leverage power if we are centrally defined. And so that became one of our challenges. To review and improve the program design and delivery concepts, we can always make improvement. Quality is always an issue. And how did that quality how does it impact itself based on the equipment purchases? Utilize program improvement measures for ATME. We have to always be mindful of our accreditation body and then show that we are in a continuous improvement mode, and fully develop and utilize advisory committees. We don't want to only be internally governed, we want to be externally governed. We want input from industry, as well as our advisory input, as well as our internal input from our content experts. And finally, to implement an equipment replacement plan. I guess we were blessed in one way because we had procurement processes in place, and so this strategy didn't just happen overnight. It's been a process ongoing, and it's been developed, and it's kind of coming into play as we share some of the data with you here over the last 3 years. Course mapping simply started out by bringing vendors in and bringing our advisory board in and looking at competencies with course objectives and seeing what equipment was needed to facilitate the course. But the challenge that we have is that we're a one-state college, and to have that same consistency throughout the state. So it became a bigger problem as we traveled throughout the state to identify that there were some regions that had greater needs than other regions, and and therefore to draw upon that consistency to make us a one-state college system, this became a priority. And so we looked at our equipment matchups, and we looked at it course by course. And this is an ongoing process. We've not arrived at a completion state, but we are identified the Advanced Automation Robotics Technology program, and we looked at HVAC, and we looked at welding, and we did a course-by-course analysis. We looked at the need to run a course. Then we also looked at what we had as resources to accomplish that, but then what was the required need to fill the actual required equipment needed to teach the programs. And then we had a final column, efficiency. How can we make it better? And so we were not only thinking and considering the present at hand, but also our future state. So you want to be sure you consider all of those issues. This is a simple example of some course equipment, which I'm sure you have in your colleges as well. And we looked at INDT 113, which is our basic electricity course. We looked at relay logic. We looked at sensor controls. We looked at oscilloscopes. We looked at large trainers. And we began to identify and secure equipment based on an RFP that would be standardized. Now, I personally was not a part of that standardization, but I know these people on stage and a lot of others, they looked at RFP processes and they said, how can we standardize it and make it a one-state strategy so that we eliminate costs, we eliminate RFPs, we eliminate all the redundancy that's being done over 14 regions. And a detailed process for equipment purchases was identified and laid out. This is another AC/DC electrical control unit to support one of our systems. One of the things that it brought out that not only as a part of our trainers that we could use to support our class content, we identified multiple programs where that same piece of equipment could be used, and also identified our cost savings by how many were actually needed to run a course of 15. And this is just some additional equipment that goes with the motor control trainers. In the process, we also looked at replacement cycles. We did an in-house inventory. We looked at all the equipment, whether it was good or bad. We rated it, poor, good, excellent. And that gave us a robust baseline to start from. Then we looked at what we had supportive of that equipment. We looked at the needs, and we did the little chart over on the side. You can't see it, but it's a little spreadsheet showing the comparisons of all the regions across the state and how we compare and how we rank with each other. Again, consistency and quality were our goal. And what you see on the screen now is just a base package of the AART and INDT programs to run a TC. Now, in the lower far left corner at the bottom of the screen, it says $250,000. But we have identified how many recommended units and what those recommended units are without reading them to you. And we've got an estimated cost per unit, and then what that full cost just for the base package. So if we want to run a program in industrial maintenance and industry comes to us and tells us that we would like for you to offer that course, we can say it's going to cost $250,000 for our equipment. To enhance that program, we have a mechanical package. So not on top of the base package of $250,000, now we have added $200,000. And to bring quality into this program, this is the same across the state. So one region doesn't look like differently than another region. We have total consistency as we have brought this on board. And to add more detail into the package, if we want to add the electrical concentration into the maintenance package, Then we add another $155,000. And so you kind of see how the process works. Process control was the last package. So if you want a complete package deal, you got them all laid out. In fact, this has happened. We discussed this morning, and how one of our campuses just a few weeks ago laid out exactly how much it would cost to have a program for a particular industry, because he has all this here content information laid out for him. And if you want a full package blown deal that has the electrical, the mechanical, and all of that, you can go to the far down at the bottom right-hand corner of the picture and see that it costs $1,500,000. That's the equipment side. The delivery side is just as important to us. And it was alluded to in the last group about delivery concepts and what we've done to help our retention and to build quality into the programs. Structure scheduling, block formats. A block format, I'm sure most of you maybe know about that, but if you don't know about it, it's simply reducing the amount of courses that a student would take in a block format. And the way we do that is, if you were going in a semester program, you would take 4 classes to be a full-time student. In a block schedule format, you go 8 weeks and you take 2 classes 2 times a week, and then the second 8 weeks you take 2 more classes. So it helps on the quality side for the student, because most of our attraction is to working people. It's heavy lab focus. We use the flip model simulation, where more focus is provided in the laboratory, and we feel that that is more industry relevant. And here's what some of the results are coming about after 3 years of doing this. And we have across the board, we have a little variety: welding, HVAC, automotive. But look at the old strategy, and we haven't done away with the old strategy. We're focusing on the TCs, but under the new strategy, in the tech programs, we had 10% graduation rate. Under the new strategy, we have 70% graduation rate. Under the old strategy, we had 50% electives in our pathways. We had more electives than you could shake a stick at. Now we don't have any electives. We tell them what they're going to take. The common for courses to cancel. You get up to the last day of class and you had to cancel because of low numbers. This eliminates, because we're not offering as many classes. No sequencing. It was confusing for students. Now we do nothing but sequence. We lay it out for them. They can see their full plan and whether it's in the morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on the amount of students. The delivery method, the standard delivery method. Now we have a flip format, which we just discussed. In the old format model, it was a 2-lecture, 2-lab process for 16 weeks. Now it's an 8-week delivery format with lab focus. It was hard to have multiple entry points. Now the new process allows for multiple entry points. Minimal stackable credentials, certifications, and so on was allowed. Now we have embedded into our course content certification after certification after certification. You go to HVAC, you have HVAC excellence certifications. You have about 6 excellence. And the Welding Society have many certifications, and you all are aware of those kinds of things. But now they're embedded, they're a part of the course content. The general ed remediation wasn't contextualized. And by that, now what we have is we have contextualized our math content, and that was no small feat done in our cooperation working with the general education department. And they focused on general education. It's contextualized simply mean you do math for technology reasons. You don't use math for any reason. You use communication for technical reasons, and so on. The process to convert traditional scheduling to block scheduling we've kind of already discussed, but one of the strategies we had to work with was the Gen Ed department, and we use a couple days to solve that problem. On Tuesdays and Thursdays at my campus and some of the other regions, they do it differently. But on Monday and Wednesday and Friday, we focus on technical content. And we block schedules with the whole division in mind, not with the program in mind, but with the division in mind. If you use basic electricity and HVAC, and you use basic electricity in industrial arts, and you use basic electricity and advanced automation robotics technology, we correlate that so that they're all taking basic electricity at the same time. That reduces the amount of need necessary to cancel classes. This is just a structure showing the single pathways going from that. The full process is stackable, that you can start out in a certificate, which is 18 to 24 hours, and then you can go into the 18 to 21 hours, and then you can go upwards in the blue arrows, which is a single pathway strategy, and you can get your technical certificate, which is stackable into the associate degree, so nothing is lost. It moves you forward constantly. The success rates that we're seeing in conclusion here, we're having a good success rate, and the strategy is working. And at the TC level, it's not been implemented at the associate degree level, but at the TC level. And cohort sizes are staying up, retention is up. When we did certifications under the old model, we hoped to have 25%. That was a goal, and we hardly met that goal. Under the new model, we're having anywhere, in this case, at this particular campus, they had 82% certification pass rates. The desired results in our future state is continual improvement. Fully implemented processes, procedures for ordering equipment, maintaining labs, developing curriculum, and connecting curriculum to industry. Thank you.
We're here. Good afternoon. I'm Rodni Lytle along with Vearl Turnpaugh. We're going to report out quickly on the metrics committee. We're bringing up the back end of this. Right. So I'd like to also acknowledge Teresa Hess, Daryl Kessler, Glenn Roberson, and David Wills. Also David Wills sat on our committee as well. Our committee was obviously assigned with working through measuring institutional effectiveness, working through student engagement and learning, and then our outcome looking for establishment of instruments and metrics fostering the growth of the division. We're together. Good. Real quickly, what did we find? We moved it into 3 points. We went into a discovery phase. We went into what does the data mean, and then how are we going to perpetuate it, what's it going to look like in the cultural norm and the flywheel going forward. And in order to do that, we took a look at, because we're a statewide system, we took a look at what we are and who we are and our inconsistencies. We looked at our data measurement, our reporting structures, and our program coding. As you might expect, we found inconsistencies from one end of the state to the other, so we started to take a look at that and how that was affecting us and our outcomes. We also went back and reflected on our 2025 Ivy Tech strategic plan that had been laid out for us. How were we hitting those metrics? What was we doing inside of that? And we obviously found some discrepancies again. Co-jointly, we were working through the NSF grant and looking at the activities that we were learning as a group, and we applied some of those. We found that brought structured approach to what we were doing. We found that it helped us establish a datum for reference and also a systematic approach to moving through this. We were doing really good as a committee, moving through the metrics, finding this data, and then we ran into the House Enrollment Act 1001-2015. Basically, that was a legislative intervention which had everything to do with metrics, and that's what Vearl's going to speak about. And it really gave us a different paradigm to work inside of, and Vearl's going to explain that to you.
I'm Vearl Turnpaugh, and I work at the central office at Ivy Tech, and I've been with the college for 26 years. And so legislatively, we've seen a change in Indiana And we've seen certain aspects that are being legislated to us inside the community college system. And this is actually one of the pieces that will be legislated out to us. In fact, we'll have to do this reporting back to the state, back to our Commission for Higher Education, and then also back to our DWD, our Department of Workforce Development, too, is actually putting constraints on us as well. Some of the findings that we have in Indiana and nationally, American Association for Community Colleges reports that the national pass rate for community colleges is actually around 60% in modern programs. Actually, at Ivy Tech, what we find out and what this report did for us was tell us that in our programs of study, about 28% of our full-time students actually graduate. And if we look at our part-time students, it was much less than that, too. It's actually around 11% of the students. There was one data point that's particularly, disturbing to us, but approximately 3% of the programs that we have at Ivy Tech graduate more than 50% of the students. And if we looked at them, they would all be cohort-based programs of study: apprenticeship, nursing, those programs of study. So we can kind of lead it right to where we've been talking about block scheduling and some of these things. That's going to get us going here. It also, and the commission reported this back to us, but we already knew it, that there was no systematic data reporting and storage of student workforce data. In other words, what we know at Ivy Tech is based on completions and enrollment, and what the DWD knows about that is workforce, and we don't mesh back and forth. Some states have systems where they can actually mesh back and forth and follow students, and if you're in one of those states, I applaud you, because we're feeling the bear down of it right now. Also, as a general rule right now, programs are being reviewed to see if they meet minimum level of need, which is 30 students. And so some of our programs at certain sites where we have siloed programs, maybe what we call a one-off program, would probably fall into less than 30 student situation. And so, what does the data mean, though? And I think that's where we're at right now. And so I'm going to show you a chart here and kind of explain where we've been. Indiana, 6 years ago, moved from enrollment-based funding at the community college system to formula funding and completion funding now. We get paid on the 15 credit hour marks, 15, 30, 45, 60 still, but it's very minimal. Really, the completion rates for technical certificates and associate's degree is what rules right now. And so that whole CT level, what we call CTs or certificates, is kind of left out and was left out of the funding model completely. And so we're struggling with that right now to get that put back into legislation so that we actually get funded on that. And so you can see how that would definitely sway what we do in our programming. If you're not getting funded for one thing and you're getting funded for something, you're going to turn your attention to what you're getting funded for. And that's actually what we've seen here now. But they went back and looked at a cohort, actually, of 2007, 2008 students. And so it's very far back, and then pushed that forward and gave us the results. And that's actually, Sue and I are going through it right now, looking program by program, location by location in terms of this. But you can see on the board up here right now, based on what I've told you, and we know about Ivy Tech, you can see the